Hello everyone. Today I'm going to do a review, thoughts, and opinions video on the new Star Trek Picard SDCC San Diego Comic-Con official trailer for 2019. This was just released, and I'm going to do a bit of a review and thoughts and opinions video on this. Now, I thought about doing a reaction video on this, but quite frankly, demonetization, strikes, claims, all those things, you know how it works. I didn't want to take that chance, and I thought it might be actually more meaningful if I just made a thoughts and opinions video instead, and we go through the video slide by slide. Allows me to give you my thoughts and opinions. That would be more meaningful than just a reaction video, just seeing how I'm reacting to it. So as of right now, I have seen the trailer about 4 or 5 times. So I've seen it several times, and I watch very carefully for things, and I have opinions and thoughts, and that's basically what we're going to do, is just go through this, and I'm going to tell you what I think. Simple as that. If you are unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Brent Justice, and I'm a huge Star Trek fan since my single digits. I have seen every series, every episode, every movie, even all of Star Trek Discovery. So I'm quite well knowledgeable and experienced from a lifetime of being a fan. I also have a YouTube channel called Just Gaming for Us, and on that YouTube channel I have over 1,000 gameplay videos of the game Star Trek Online. I've been into that game since it launched years and years ago. I still play it to this day, a huge fan of it. It has its own lore and storyline, and at the end of this video I'm going to talk about how this new Picard series can or cannot connect to it. Maybe it doesn't, so I'm going to talk about that at the end. But yeah, let's just go through this. Like I said, I'm going to go through this, frame by frame here on YouTube. No audio. I'm just going to go through this and talk about what I see. So sit back and relax, and let's see what we got here. So first we start off right here in the vineyards, Picard's vineyards. Beautiful. Looks just like you would expect it to be. Now, we've seen the vineyards, of course, at the end of the series of TNG. We see them quite prominently in an alternate future version of himself. So we've seen these before. We've also seen them in a TNG episode, but definitely much better on the big screen. Or I say big screen. It almost looks like the big screen. It looks like a movie. Flying through there, this mansion. Beautiful. Now we've seen his residence in a TNG episode, but it looked nothing like this. This is obviously a real location, a real place. Obviously it's supposed to be France. That's where he lives. So the vineyards in France, his mansion. I see a house to the left over there as well. Beautiful place. What can I say? Looks great already. And I like the realistic nature of it. It's filmed on location, outside. It's not a set. It's not in a studio. Beautiful. Makes it look more real. We see his hands opening the door. This is our introduction to Picard. Seeing him again on the screen. Opens the doors, and all we see is a silhouette, but we know what's coming. We know what's coming through those doors. And again, I like the realistic nature of his living quarters here. He's got real furniture. It's not a hologram, as far as I know. It's realistic, and it looks nice. It's a kind of place you would imagine Picard to live, especially a retired Picard. And then there's a profile of his face as we get introduced to an original series, and there it is. This just made my mouth drop right here. This was exceptional. The communicator. Now, this is the Voyager era Nemesis, post-Nemesis communicator. So this communicator makes sense that this would be what he's known by. Obviously it's different from the TNG communicator, but this is the evolved version of that. Comes after the TNG communicators. I believe it was worn in the movies. So, if you've seen any later versions of Picard, this is the communicator that that he would be known by or retired from or whatever. But it still would have been interesting if right beside it they had a TNG era communicator. Like he's really thinking about his past, all those years he spent on the Enterprise. That would have been awesome. Like if he had just, a second one beside it and it was the older TNG communicator. Wouldn't that have just been iconic? Scratching his head here, I don't know, by a fire. Now we come to this scene. This is interesting. Data? What? Now, the question I have is, how can this be Data? It can't, right? Data was completely destroyed in Nemesis. I mean, that weapon that blew up basically on the Scimitar ship, it would have completely destroyed Data. There would be no body left. So my question is this B4? Is this B4's body? Maybe they dismantled B4. I don't know why they would, but maybe. Or wild thing here, could it be Lore? Could it be a Lore body? I don't know. I see distress marks on it, so I just don't know. But people want to say, oh, that's Data, but maybe it's not. The vineyards again. I like the hovercraft watering the vineyards and so forth. Futuristic. We got some very tall buildings or something in the background, alluding again. This is the future, so got to keep all that in mind. Walking through here, he's got a dog. I never would have thought Picard would have had a dog. Is that pretty crazy or what? But I guess it's realistic. I mean, he's retired now. Why not? He can have a dog. I don't mind it. Now, this scene is great. Here he is wearing his communicator, and it looks like the undershirt of the Starfleet uniform, that gray part that goes under the uniform that they wear. Why is he wearing this again? I don't know. Good question. He's looking up at the stars, though. And I looked at this scene really hard. I don't understand what this is here. Is this supposed to be some kind of structure or building that's like just really tall and it's in a perspective kind of view? I'm not really sure. Hard to tell what this scene really is. Looks very blurry anyway. And then we come to this girl that we are introduced to. She's going to be a major part of this series. But who is she? She's in a hood. Cool look. Then we've got this outdoor scene. It's raining. Now, I don't know what planet. Could this be Earth? It could be. Look at... I noticed this, though, and some people may not pick this out, but there's a program running, like a TV program, but they're holograms, of Picard talking. So maybe some kind of speech. Maybe he was on a news program. Maybe he was just giving a speech about his time out there in space or whatever. I don't know, but there's people standing there in the window in the rain watching it. So maybe it's more of an immediate thing and not like a recording, but more of like this is like a news broadcast that's happening right now or something. Could be. But I'm guessing this is the girl in the hood back here. And then... again, we have a closer up picture of her, and now we're really starting to wonder who she is. Now, there's one thing I noticed about her, and it's the eyes. Yes, I know when she pulls the hood back, there's some blood, but her eyes are a dark yellow, okay? Data had bright yellow eyes, okay? Is there a connection? I was thinking immediately, before I saw the blood, I was thinking android. Maybe she is Data's daughter. Remember Lal? Maybe she is an evolved version of that. Maybe Data had, in secret, created a secondary daughter android. I don't know. Or, I don't know. But, or maybe not even related to Data at all. But still, the dark yellow eyes is a very distinct thing. And so I thought, okay, android. But then she pulls the hood back. See how yellow her eyes are here? But then she pulls her hood back and there's blood. Okay. But then I'm thinking, What about if it's an advanced android, more advanced than Data, like the next generation of the Soong androids? Like maybe she's more cybernetic, and maybe she has an outer skin filled with blood like the Terminators, so that she's android underneath, but with a real skin on top. That would be the next evolution, right? Maybe she's an evolved android or cybernetic person. But then she says, to Picard that she trusts him and that for some reason she can trust him. Again, the yellow eyes. But so then I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's a long lost child of Jean-Luc. Maybe him and Vosh got it off a long time ago, and here's his daughter showing up. Maybe somehow she's related to Sela. Maybe she's a daughter of Sela, and that would be a very strong connection as well to Picard. I don't know. I got so many possibilities. Android, daughter, related, not related. She could be anything. I got no idea, but I'm excited to find out. So I've got theories on what she could be or who she could be, but of course I've got no idea, and there's no confirmation of any of that. I just noticed the eyes were that yellow color. So, but she bleeds. So she bleeds. What else do we have? Okay. Oh yes, Starfleet. Starfleet Academy, or not Academy necessarily, but maybe some kind of grounds. I wanted to try to pause right here if I can, and I did, because this right here, I want you all to notice this communicator. It's hard to see in this video, but if you watch the trailer, try to pause it right in the scene and look at the communicators that they're wearing. This is the diamond-shaped communicator. It's got that like diamond and then the open kind of Starfleet logo on top of it. This is a future design we've seen before, and in fact this is in Star Trek Online, the game, as well, this communicator. And so this is the communicator they are using now. They've evolved from the what Picard was wearing to this one. So this is the new communicator. Also, their uniforms, very Starfleet-like. It's got high collars though, but that's okay. I can live with that. And it looks like the pips are down here on the on their uniform instead of on the collar. So interesting, all of that. But here's the deal, and here's what I like about this. This is the, let me move. Actually, you probably can't see it because my video is in the way, isn't it? And I'm sorry, I can't move my screen out of the way so you can see the other people here on the right side. When you watch this trailer, just look at the people on the right side and just look at all the people all around. But this is the way to do uniforms right here. This is totally the way. Forget Star Trek Discovery uniforms. I don't know what all that was about. That was stupid. This is how you evolve the uniform. This makes sense. This is a Starfleet uniform. These uniforms look good. So that's all I'm saying. And now this admiral, at first I thought Janeway, but this looks nothing like Janeway. Some admiral, and again you can see where the pips are on the outfit here. They're down on the chest rather than the collar now. But an admiral that he's talking to, no idea who she is. Just talking to her, and oh yeah, this guy here, a very cool looking dude. No idea what he's supposed to be or who he's supposed to be. Interesting looking gun. I was trying to place him by his weapon, but I don't recognize that weapon in Star Trek. I also don't recognize the helmet. You know what would be an interesting element from all this? Time travelers. What if the future time police, the temporal investigations, whatever from the future, were involved in this? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? But I don't think that's that. Anyway, she's getting shot at. No idea why. Is it the same girl, younger? But then here we see Picard older, and it looks like she's now fighting these guys. Again, I don't recognize their outfits and weapons. They could just be regular police. Like maybe they're just police, you know. It's that simple. Now, I like the HUD, the heads-up display on their helmets. Very cool looking. And she's really got some moves here. They're wearing armor, vests of some sort. So maybe they're police. And then this scene right here. One guy gets thrown over the rails. And the first thing I thought when I saw this was hologram. They're on a holodeck or something. He gets thrown over and he dematerializes. But if you look carefully and watch the scene over and over, it looks more like a transporter beam to me. So what if these guys have an emergency transporter? What if, like, you know, they are police, and so like they get thrown over a rail or thrown off or something, they have an automatic beam out. They have like a personal transporter button on them. We've seen that kind of emergency transporter thing before. I mean, Data had that in Nemesis and used it there. So we know that exists. So maybe and this is in the future of that. So maybe these guys have an emergency transport beam out. You know, he's falling and he would fall to his death. So instead of doing that, he beams out, because it looks like the way he fades out right there at the end is a total, you know, transporter effect to me. We see Picard talking. Coming in 2020. These ships, no idea. I was trying to look at them and see what they connect with. No idea. Cool looking though. What planet is that? Could that be Mars? Are they that close to maybe Earth? Or is it just some random red planet? Who knows? Now this guy and these people, again, are these the same people we just saw fighting her in that last scene? Or are these a different set of people with a different kind of black uniform on? And who's this guy on the bed? They have some kind of hologram over him, I guess, scanning his biosigns. Now this was really cool. Captain Picard Day. This sign was seen in a TNG episode. Very iconic, a very great episode, and so here it is. So did he keep that sign and hang it up somewhere so he could see it? Is it in a museum, maybe? Is this a hologram or a holodeck recreation of it? Who knows? But I like that it brings that in, that TNG episode in. I mean, that is so awesome to me. Then we come to this scene. And this looks like a prison, straight up prison. Now, the thing that gives me pause about this, and we'll see this connected in another scene coming up here, I think this is a Borg cube. And I think this is the Borg cube that we see coming up. First of all, check this out. This sign, you may not be able to see it because of my overlay, but this sign down here says, this facility has gone 5,843 days without an assimilation. A funny little, you know, prison joke. But then back here on the back, those look like Borg alcoves, just white or bluish instead of green. But they look totally like Borg alcoves, do they not? So I think the prison is the Borg cube. Somehow they've captured a Borg cube and are using it as a prison. That is kind of interesting. And yeah, these totally look like prisoners. And again, there's our girl. And look at, again, her eyes. Very distinctly yellow. Very distinctly yellow. Just notice that. Now we come to this person. At first I thought, oh, Vulcan. No, those eyebrows are Romulan. Those are Romulan eyebrows right there. Now this scene was really cool. This is that famous California outcropping scene that is seen in a lot of Star Trek when they film outdoors. Kirk's battle with the Gorn, famous scene out in this area. Very cool that he's walking this area. Is it on another planet? Is this on Earth? I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it's obviously that California filming location. And I love seeing that here because it's used in so much Star Trek and sci-fi in general. Now this scene is cool, and I'm going to tell you why. Because of these portal things in the background. As this scene begins, Notice that on Picard's right side, which is the left side of the screen, a guy beams in through one of these right here. He's beaming in through one of these portal things. So this makes me think that this is how they travel across the planet now. Maybe not from other planets, but on Earth. Like, let's say you're in San Francisco and you want to go to France. You just walk through one of these transporter portals, and it instantly transports you to France. And that's how they get around on Earth in this future. Again, this is in the future of Nemesis. This is ahead of that. So this is a natural progression and evolution of transporter technology. It's gotten smaller. They don't need a big pad. And you can transport with these like arches now. At least inside the same planet. Maybe they don't work from ship to planet, but at least across the planet, you know, it could work like that. I think that's just a great evolution of technology. Now, see, if we had seen something like this in Discovery, everyone would be up in arms because it would be way too futuristic for Discovery. But here, where this is the future and this is more futuristic, it makes sense. It's an evolution of technology that makes sense. So that's great. And then, these people, no idea, but it sounds like Picard's getting a group of people together. I noticed he's holding a bottle of wine, like as an offering here to this lady or something. I think he's trying to form some kind of crew. This guy, again, you immediately think Vulcan, but I think he's Romulan. I think that is a Romulan samurai. And I'll tell you why and I'll tell you why it's the ears and then the forehead. They have like, I don't know. The Romulans have more of a bumpy forehead than Vulcans do. Although this could be a Vulcan. I mean, maybe he is Vulcan. Maybe the other one's a Romulan and this one's Vulcan. I don't know, but I do know that the Romulans being part of this series make a lot of sense because of the Hobus destruction of Romulus. And so the Romulans are out in the galaxy, spread out, colonies everywhere. They're dispersed, and they're just trying to make a living. But I don't know. He could be Vulcan now that I look at his eyebrows. Those are very Vulcan eyebrows. It's all about the eyebrows, right? But I don't know. I just don't know. On this scene, he looks Romulan. So I don't know if he's Romulan or Vulcan now. Now this guy's definitely Romulan. And I'll tell you why. It's the forehead. It's the bumpy forehead. I thought maybe he was Vulcan, but I get more of a Romulan vibe. Plus he's showing a little bit more of emotion than I would think from a Vulcan. So maybe he's Romulan. Anyway, Vulcan or Romulan, we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see a lot of Romulans in this series. Holograms galore. See, again, in Discovery, it don't make sense, but here, perfect sense. This is the future. This makes sense. People won't get upset about holograms floating around everywhere. And I don't know what they're in. Some kind of ship maybe they're stealing. I don't know. I was hoping for maybe a Galaxy class in this series. We'll see. A journey. Now, this planet is interesting. These are definitely Romulans, especially back here in the back right-hand side. They're Romulans. You can tell by the skin color. You can tell by the hair. The hair, you can tell by the foreheads and the shape of their foreheads and stuff. These are definitely dispersed Romulans here. Has to be. Don't know what planet this is. It kind of reminds me of Nimbus in a way. But yeah, these are some dispersed Romulans. Has to be. I like the jacket that he's wearing here. This jacket. I want that jacket. I must have that jacket. That's nice. No idea what this is. A hallway, a woman, a man. I guess it's a woman. I don't know. No idea who this is. Again, I thought for a second this was Spock from Discovery, the Discovery Spock. But no, it's a new player here. And then there's the girl again. Again, no idea, no idea. Yeah, this it's not that guy, but it looked like him. And then this she again, pointy ears, but her eyebrows aren't as pronounced. Again, I'm guessing Romulan. I'm just gonna go that route. Also, she's really cute. Is far from over. Picard is on this ship thing. There's again a close-up of our girl. No idea. And then the Borg cube. This catches all the reactors by surprise right here, is this Borg cube. Makes everybody go wow. And I definitely went wow. But what I'm seeing here on this cube is a lot of damage. A huge chunk, a huge hole in it here. Protected by force fields. Force fields keeping an environment inside. Okay. So somebody has captured a Borg cube and are using it for a purpose. And again, I think that's the prison. I think the Borg cube is the prison. And then he's pouring a drink and somebody is talking and we see the back of her head and then another huge reveal that nobody saw coming at all. Jerry Ryan. That's right. Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9 in Star Trek Picard. I am so excited about this. By the way, she's looking great. They did her Borg eyepiece really well here, and I also see the other little star thing on the other side of her face. So, excuse me. So the her Borg, appliances are still there. She's wearing civilian clothing, so she's not wearing a uniform or anything. Makes me wonder what she's doing. What future has she had? And I guess we're going to learn some more about that, because that's going to be exciting. I'd like to know what she's been doing all this time. Yeah, I'm really excited about her being in here. Now, if I recall correctly, I don't think they've ever met. I don't think 7 of 9 and Picard have ever met. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think that, unless, they have post-Voyager, post-Nemesis, post-everything, unless they've met, where we haven't seen them. But on screen, I don't think they've ever met. So interesting that she's here and interacting with him now. But I'm looking forward to that. And then we come to, again, looks like an interior shot of the Borg cube. This looks like an interior shot of the Borg cube. Looks like that blue force field. So I think this is a prison, and I think this is Picard and that group of people stealing a starship from this prison place and escaping, or stealing somebody from this place and escaping out of it. Like they had to go to this prison to get someone and kidnap them and take them away, maybe. Because it looks like they're in their ship and they're trying to escape. Oh, this scene here, so Romulan. Let's go back. Yeah, these guys are so Romulan. Especially the guy on the right. They're Romulan. And I love his outfit. It's like a... They're just on the fringe. The Romulans are just on the fringe now. They're scattered, trying to make a living. They're rough and tumbled. But I love that. I love that. So definitely the Romulans involved. Now we come to this guy. And the first thing that came to my mind was Borg. A former Borg who has been disconnected and his parts removed, and it looks like they're removing another part here. Either this is someone they're just experimenting on, or that they're liberating from the Borg, or maybe he's dead and they're like dissecting his body. I don't know, but somebody's doing something with him. Jerry Ryan again. Looks like they're running through passageways here. A weapon. Picard has a weapon. I don't recognize that style of weapon. I don't know what enemy or what species that would be from. The girl again. He says the famous line, "Engage." And he's almost looking into the camera as he says it. He knows that's what people want to see. And then we get the Star Trek Picard logo, early 2020. Can't wait. Looks good. And then we get a little bonus scene that, again, probably a lot of people reacted too strongly. And it is, of course, Data. But is it Data? So that's the question, right? Is this Data? Is this before? Is this lore? Is it one of those bodies with Data's consciousness in it? Could before have built a new Data and put his consciousness in it? Is this before with Data's consciousness evolved? Is this a new android body? Is this a de-aged Data? Obviously, they have done something here because he is not the current Brent Spiner looking guy. I'm trying to be polite. This is a younger Data face. So that means, have they digitally de-aged him? Now, when I look at it, that's the first thing that comes to my mind because it looks a bit off. There's some things about it that look a bit off, and I think a lot of people will notice that. And it's right here in this face area. Obviously, this looks digital. Okay, this looks digital. So I think the whole digital de-aging thing, my mouse cursor is probably not showing. What I'm trying to indicate is the his cheeks, basically. Look at his cheeks, okay? His lower face. His cheeks are too puffy. I think that's what it is. I think that's what's throwing me off. His cheeks are too puffy. They need to be pushed inward a little more. If they were inward, it's like he's holding his mouth shut and blowing air in his cheeks. They're just too puffy. His eyes are also opened very wide, maybe more wide than they should be. So it throws me off a little. It looks a little fake. But I think it has to be because either this is a past scene or this is a current scene. I mean, Data doesn't age, although he can change his hair color, but his face wouldn't age. So, yeah, I don't know what they're necessarily doing here for this effect, but I'm guessing it's a de-aging. I'm also guessing, I don't know. Again, I don't know which Data it is. That's the thing. I just don't know which Data it is. But I think it's the puffy cheeks. It's the roundness of his face. His face is so round here, and maybe it shouldn't be so round. That's what's throwing me off. His cheeks are too puffy. But then when he starts talking like this, like right here, see when he starts talking and pulling his cheeks in, that looks more like Data. But I think looking at his teeth here, they definitely look digital. I think the whole lower portion of his face is digital. So what's going to be interesting is just to see how this looks in the actual show. Again, this is so high def, and we've never seen Data in such high definition. This is crazy. So only on CBS All Access early 2020. That's going to be good, folks. I'm looking forward to this series. Finally, we have a proper series that is not a prequel, but moves the franchise forward. The problem with Discovery and also JJ Trek, the problem mainly with those series is that they're prequels. They're taking place in a time that's already established. And we've seen that time period. We see what it's supposed to look like. We've seen everything about it. And when you try to revisit that 30, 40, 50 years later, whatever, it's going to look different, and so it's not going to match up. And that's really the problem. We need to stop with the prequels and go into the future. Go post-Nemesis, like Picard is doing. And then nobody will complain about holograms walking all around your room, sitting down on your desk as you're communicating with people light years away with a hologram in a room that Discovery introduced. That stuff wouldn't be crazy in the post-Nemesis Star Trek world. But in Discovery, it doesn't make sense, right? So we see a lot of things that are just not cohesive with what we've already seen established in the past. The point is, Discovery takes place like 10 years before Kirk takes control of the Enterprise. But we've already got a show that's in that time period It's called Star Trek, the original series. We don't need another Star Trek in that same timeline, in that same time period. We've already got a Star Trek in that time period. It's called Star Trek, the original series again. It's there. It already exists. We don't need to revisit it. And that's the problem with Discovery and, of course, the rebooted J.J. Trek movies. So pulling this into the future makes so much more sense. We need to get away from those prequels. The only prequel that I wouldn't mind seeing, and I don't know if they could do this justice, would be the Earth-Romulan War. The first Earth-Romulan War. That was really Earth's big first war in space that they had to fight, and that would be cool to see. It's right after Archer's time. He would still be alive, but I mean, it's right after that series would take place, and that would be an interesting thing to see, is the Earth-Romulan War. But other than that, leave the past alone. Leave the past alone. So this Star Trek Picard series really interests me because it's what fans want to see. They want to see the continuing future of Star Trek. And that means post-Nemesis, post-Voyager. Put it in that time period and you're good. You're solid. Because then they can show an evolution, a different kind of things like we saw those archway transporters and stuff. That is a great evolution of technology that makes sense because we are now more in the future. That nobody will complain about. Well, there'll be very little complaint. People will still find something to complain about, let me tell you. But there'll be a lot less of it. So yeah, I like the Picard series because we're moving into the future. So I think this fixes a big problem with Discovery, and that is it's not a prequel finally, where it's a sequel. Now, another thing I need to talk about, because I am a big player of Star Trek Online. My channel, Just Gaming for Us, I have 1,000 videos of gameplay on that. This is going to potentially break or change Star Trek Online lore, depending on how they go with this. Again, we don't know the full details and all that stuff, but potentially this is going to totally break Star Trek Online lore. Because in Star Trek Online, it has its own story of what takes place post-Nemesis. It has its own story. It takes place in the early 25th century. I guess maybe around the time period of this. Or close to it anyway. Closer to it. But there's this story called The Pathway to 2409. And 2409 is the year that Star Trek Online takes place in the first part of the game. 2409. So that's the early 25th century. It's like 30 years after Voyager. 30 years after Voyager. So yeah, this would be very close in time period. So in Star Trek Online's story, B4 with Data's consciousness rebuilt the Data android and then uploaded that consciousness into a new android body, and that again became Data. Because remember, B4's positronic brain is not as advanced as Data's. He was a prototype. So Data's consciousness, however, was in B4. So B4 built Data, I guess with help or whatever, and then uploaded his consciousness back into Data, and Data became Data again. A brand new Data. But in the Star Trek Online storyline, Data took command of the Enterprise E. Okay? After Picard, he took command of the Enterprise E. But in Star Trek Online storyline, they got lost. They got lost in space. Somewhere out there, the Enterprise E and Data were lost in space, and nobody knows what happens. It's never been resolved. And so the Enterprise E being lost, they commissioned a new Enterprise, the Enterprise F, which is the Odyssey class, which we see in the game. So that's been replaced. That's Star Trek Online lore. And then you have the other side of that with the whole Hobus supernova thing happening. In Star Trek Online's lore, the Hobus supernova was constructed by the Iconians. They had this whole huge storyline about the Iconians and how they made this happen. So Romulus is destroyed and so forth. But the Iconians were behind it, and Sela is heavily involved in that storyline, heavily involved in a way you wouldn't even expect in that storyline. It's a very cool storyline. But the Iconians are involved, Sela's involved. Romulans have created a new planet they call New Romulus, or Mol Rihan, and they have created a new world to live on. And they are trying to make it, in the galaxy. They are scattered. The Romulans are still scattered, but they do have a new home planet. And all that's in the Star Trek Online story, and it's great. And there's a whole lot of other stuff there, too, involved with all that. There's some other things, too. And then we've got the Dominion. The Dominion have been involved in the storyline, a progression of the Dominion and what they're doing now, where the Founders are now and what they're doing. All these things, even the Delta Quadrant. There's a whole long storyline on the Delta Quadrant and the state of the Delta Quadrant right now and what's going on in there. So Star Trek Online has its own storyline. And this Star Trek Picard, well, it takes precedence because this is a CBS TV show. They hold the rights to Star Trek. So Star Trek Online is not really prime canon. It's like a soft beta canon. So CBS could have pulled from the game and used stuff from it if they wanted to, and maybe they have in Picard, and we haven't seen that yet. But technically, CBS's Star Trek would be the prime timeline canon. So that means it could change or overwrite Star Trek Online lore and history and story. And then so that makes me question, what is Cryptic going to do? What is Cryptic going to do with the game? Are they going to start adapting Star Trek Picard stories to the game? I mean, they've done it with Discovery. Are they going to have to change lore in Star Trek Online? Are they going to have to rewrite and overwrite things and remove missions and change missions around so that it makes sense with the Picard series? Are they going to change the whole storyline? Or are they just going to go with their own separate storyline that's pretty much just not in lockstep continuation canon with Star Trek anymore? Because now there will be a divergence. You'll have the actual prime timeline canon that CBS has with Star Trek Picard, and then you'll have a different canon with Star Trek Online. So it makes me worried about what they're going to do with the future of Star Trek Online. How is it going to change the game, and is it going to change the game, or are they just going to leave it all separate? And if it does change the game and make things kind of irrelevant, could this be the death blow to Star Trek Online if they're not able to change things? I do wonder, and you have to wonder those things. So I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is in early 2020, Star Trek Picard is coming out. I'm going to watch it. It's going to be awesome. And I guess we're just going to have to see how Star Trek Online, the game, adapts to it or not. But I'm looking forward. Star Trek Picard makes me now more ambitious and happy about the future of the franchise. I was really worried after Star Trek Discovery about the future of the franchise. I was worried about its direction and where it's headed. But Star Trek Picard gives me some hope back. I've got hope now. So I want to see, how long this lasts, how many episodes or seasons this gets. And then after that, where does it head next? What's the next chapter in Star Trek's future? And I hope they continue moving forward into the future and not into the prequels. Get off of the prequel train, guys. Get off of it. Keep moving us forward. So I'm looking forward to this. Those are my opinions. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to what other people think of this. Leave your comments below and let me know what you think overall of the trailer and my thoughts and opinions on this. As a trailer, I give this trailer an A+. This was a well-made cinematic trailer. The music in it, it's got that classic Star Trek music, brings you into it. It's very appealing, and it makes you want more. And that's what a trailer should do. So A+ on the trailer. I don't know if we'll have any more trailers before this comes out or not. Maybe, I'm hoping for maybe at least one more trailer. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you think below. And thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to hear from everybody on this. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Check out Twitter at Brent_Justice for updates. You can follow me there. Also, check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/Brent Justice. This helps support the channel and also allows me to publish more and more videos.